Alright, let's talk about more onto the Adobe Analytics implementation through JavaScript or with JavaScript. Now, as we are aware, Adobe Analytics has the various tools within the Experience Manager umbrella. However, Adobe Analytics can be extended through the JavaScript, and by all means, JavaScript's variables, its methods, its objects, its functions. You can customize those functions and whatnot. So having said that, let's dig into that, how JavaScript can be helpful. Although I've seen that JavaScript is much useful and can extend the Adobe Analytics implementation. However, the focus for this project is to extract query string data from the URL through JavaScript, number one. Number two, also how we can pull the values from the HTML of a page and push it to the Adobe Analytics. Apart from that, the third and the most prime objective is to get the pull values from data layer and push values as well. So having said that, without further ado, let's deep dive into that. So before that, I would like to set up the scene here, obviously making it sure that we are aware of the events, conversion variables, persistence, and also the data layer. So let's further put into that the we know that within the Adobe Analytics have the multiple events, both predefined as well as custom. By predefined, which means we Adobe Analytics have already the predefined events which we can make use of. So with regards to or with respect to the every industry like retail, manufacturing, and whatnot. However, for the sake of example, I'm using the retail predefined events like product view, SE open, shopping cart open, SE view, shopping cart view, SE add, shopping cart add. But having said that, internally Adobe Analytics maintains the counter for the each predefined events. However, for custom events, we have to make sure that it should be maintained by us, and then it can be configured within the custom events tab, where you can define and name it, name the each and every event, like event 1 for registration, event 2 for log off and whatnot. So having said that, this is more from the conversion metrics, whereas we can make it sure that we have the control on the events to collect more data in order to satisfy the inputs to the KPIs. Now, how we can write the success events, or call it as the S dot events. Having said that, it always starts with S, ends with semicolon. So that's the basic rule within the JavaScript. Your line of code should end with the semicolon to define that the line is ended, and is the syntax of that particular code in that line is adheres and does the unit of work, maybe assignment of a value to a variable, or maybe assigning an event to a property within the S object. So we know that how we can write the custom events, like S dot events equals event 1, S dot events equals prod view, which means we are triggering an event again, as a SC open, log off, and event 1 and prod 2. By log off, obviously we cannot have the naming assignment unless it is the predefined event. Having said that, you can put it more, or it would be considered an illegal because it is not registered within the configuration of Adobe Analytics. Custom events, you can define custom events in a multiple ways, like event 1, event 2, which is more likely you can trigger two events at a time. Similarly, you can have the combination of predefined as well as the custom events, as I have written it as the as events equals prod view, event 2, event 23. And all the custom events are numeric events. Coming back to the JavaScript. Now, implementation using JavaScript has come a long way. So with that, actually, Adobe Analytics has the app measurement JS file, which is the basic file that we need to download it from the admin console under the code manager. By all means, it has got all the configurations to be set before we start using it. And app measurement is nothing but a file which is written in JavaScript, and we have to just make sure that the values within the app measurement adheres to the and should be legalized as what it is required by Adobe Analytics, such as the site ID that we have to measure, that we have to put, like s_gi examples ID. We can put it as the real site ID. Just leave it the most of the part, whereas if you want to make sure that we have to make changes, then we can make changes. So the plugins are nothing but actually you can extend it the various features through the plugins, which I will just walk you through in the next bit of slides. Now, since we have got all the initialization done in the app measurement, we can use this now as part of each and every page object or a page code. So as an example, we have the HTML and HTML tags. We have the head and body tags, as you might be aware of. But these are the this is the basic structure of any of the HTML file. As an example, let's add a script source to the app measurement.js file. Since the app measurement.js file is assuming that it will reside in the same root folder. However, if it is residing into a different path, as an example, probably your root is index.html, but there is another folder called script. Within that script, you have called JS. Within JS, you have called the Adobe Analytics folder, and within the Adobe Analytics folder, you have the app measurement.js. So you have to define the full relative path, not the absolute. By absolute mean the C colon your path to your index file. No, you don't have to do that. You have to make sure that the source starts from the root folder till the location of the file from the root folder. So you can add it like source equals / scripts / js / Adobe Analytics / app measurement.js. So now we got the app measurement reference done in the header, in the head tag. Let's do the some JavaScripting. So since we went through the some of the events and the predefined the custom events in previous slides, so I'll assume that you will know about the eval or variables within the Adobe Analytics. Apart from that, custom variables as well as the predefined variable or the properties, I will call it as in the technology in the language terms. So s.page name equals whatever the page name you have, eval set the value, and event call the event custom event as an example, and then finally end it with the s.t method, because that will push all the values to the Adobe Analytics server. And that is must, because that's something that you need to put that. Moving on with the conversion variables persistence, how we what is the usual best standard that I used to follow within the Adobe Analytics from the strategies perspective. Entry pages as an example, how the site map is of the website, and how what are the success events that have to call both predefined as well as the custom events. So this marks that the persistence is throughout the journey of browsing, as an example, throughout the journey of from adding to shopping cart to checkout / confirmation page. So everything can be tracked. So by all means, it's just a snapshot, but however, it differs from website to website, industry to industry. Now, how we can capture, how should we capture tracking codes using the campaign variables? So it is likely that there are multiple ways to do that. However, let's focus onto the right ones. So in a given example of the tracking codes, we have the multiple ways to extract the tracking codes. As an example, you can have the affiliates. You can have the retention email from the retention email, or you can even from the newsletters as an example. So we have some sort of the query strings at the end of the URL, or within the URL. Sorry, this defines the complete URL. However, you have the multiple query strings like CID, term, CID, or a campaign ID as an example. Now, how we should extract these values? So there are two ways to do it within the JavaScript. You can either use the out of the box JavaScript query, querying the URL, whereas fortunately Adobe Analytics provides the utility to extract the query string parameter from the URL itself. And how we do it? By using the get query param function within the S object. Since S is the special one, so we will use a special. We have the utility object. It is object because it is further noted through the various functions and the parameters. So the one of the function is get query param. What is the method signature of this? We have the key as a first argument, URL as the second, and the delimiter as third. Now, if you are calling it from a page, then definitely you can ignore URL and delimiter. Delimiter is nothing but the ampersand, and that is part of the URL or URL, and that denotes the multiple query strings within that. And every query string is a key, has a key. So as an example, in my previous example, CID is the key and the value is the June PPC. So similarly, how we are going to do that, since we saw the app management .js file has got two plugins, then we can get the function set the campaign equals s.util.get query parameter. Now this is the reason is writing the two plugins is because that we are maintaining a single shot campaign, and as we are aware, CID will be throughout all the pages of all the pages which will have that query parameter. So we can write it in a global JS file, which is app measurement. And having said that, you can set this one in a page code as well, similar to what I have discussed before within the script tag. Next is how we can extract the values from the HTML. As I said earlier, that the HTML is nothing but the set of the tags and the basic structure we talked about within the JavaScript, and it is in the old school way that you can make use of the JavaScript objects and its notations. Default, like document.title is a default one where you can extract the page title. Similarly, there are numerous objects like window.location where you can extract the URL itself. So there are multiple ways to do that. Now, having said that, I have given you an example here following the usage, that we have an app measurement.js file in the source referring to our app measurement file, and then we have the page name title. See over here the document.title. This is something that I instead of hard coding a value like the product page, I'm just putting it as a document title, which is nothing but we got it from over here, product page. You can set it up whatever you wanted. And as .campaign document.element ID. This is obviously can be extracted from the query string, but if in case CID is not being passed, and then we have to make sure that it boils down to a default campaign or whatever it is, then we can have a hidden CID value of type input with a value PPC June Google. So by all means, the s.campaign will be defaulted to the PPC June Google every time if it is not from the get query string parameter. And finally push it to the Adobe s.t. I have given a reference that you can go to the multiple JavaScript notations objects as well, just to get the things, how we can utilize the more from the JavaScript, and how we can implement the JavaScript and extend more functionality within the Adobe Analytics. Next is the data layer elements. Unfortunately, I don't have the trial version while recording this video. So what I did it was actually I did some of the extract of an images from the various sites, and I've already passed on the credit here. So the data layer elements is nothing but the single element whose value can be mapped to the query strings, URLs, cookie values, JavaScript variables, and so on. So I would assume that you know how to create the data layer elements or the data elements. But having said that, I just put the few steps here. So along the lines, actually, set underscore satellite object is the out of the box object that is being provided from Adobe Analytics, and this is something that you can extract the value by using the get where method data element name. So I have given a small code snippet which talks about how we can make use of the JavaScript code, data element. So where we can have the product type, and if you see that the dollar sign is nothing but we are not using the JavaScript here, but we're using jQuery. jQuery is nothing but the extension of our JavaScript, which is quite easy because these days when you try to extract a value from DOM objects within the HTML, at some time it is we have to rely on the how it is getting performed. We should not impact on the user experience, and hence the jQuery is the best way to utilize it, and you can get help a lot of from the community as well, and it's open source. So with the multiple versions, we have to just make sure that that we are using the right version of jQuery there. And how we can pass the data element value through the EVAR. So what we have done is, like as I said earlier, that we have the underscore satellite dot get variable data layer, then what the variable object that we have to extract, and this is something that we need to make sure that how the data element is created and of element type JavaScript variable. And this is something that you can put it as a digital data dot page name. By all means, that you are extracting a value of a page name which is declared as a JavaScript variable within a code. So you can put it over here as digital data dot page dot product type to define the product type and get the data element value from that JavaScript variable. So I've given an example of a scripting code where it talks about like how it can the variable value of date of birth can be extracted, because I would be needing an year from that date of birth. So I am making use of the JavaScript functions like get full year and then and return it to the DOB year. This should be always have a return function, so you can just use this as a custom code as well within the within the data layer element. So that's it. This is something that I came across. I know that the Adobe Analytics doesn't provide the enterprise trial version to most of the companies, unless it is they are interested into it and they are getting the best benefit out of from their enterprise. However, having said that, I'm still waiting for the trial version that they are going to procure it for me. But till then, this is something that I came across. I hope you like it. Just let me know if you need any further help on the JavaScript. I can provide any kind of help with regards to that. Cheers, mate. Thank you.